And so basically, because you see, what you're creating is one of the biggest ways in which colonization killed Kenyan culture, Kenyan history, Kenyan story.
Wow. No, say.
CTA with Honorable Kadri, video 5.
You never truly know people until you take the time out to get to know people. I know a lot of you maybe watching this for the first time are wondering why we're spending so much time dwelling on the history. The history is so important. It's so important. It paints context so well for you to, by the time we're now talking about the digital revolutions that are happening, you understand why and where they're coming from. You're able to relate with their history and also understand the context as to why they were doing the things they were doing from a digital perspective. And then now you're able to look at your own situation and do the same. So we do spend time on the history for a reason. Talking about history, before we enter university, remember when I asked you about the history of your family? You told me about a family tree. There's a book.
So, history is really important, and I really appreciate the way you take the time to speak with families, to have those conversations that otherwise would get lost. And so, yes, for our family, we have this book, and all the generation whom you speak with, the day they die, a book like this is lost because their mind is so rich.
Wow.
But what we've done is.
What do you mean when you say we? Who is we?
So it's never a single person who can do this.
No, but
so in our case, our we to put together this book that details. Well, it's so on the cover here is my great-grandfather.
No way.
Who established one of the first Estonian language newspapers, and so. It's basically the story of his offsprings.
Oh, wow.
And so it starts off, just a little bit bringing in, where did he come from? And so, it starts, 17th century in the Rungu parish. There lived in Kirka farm Hans, and born 1665, died 1729, and so basically just walking his family story up to
with pictures,
with basically where he came from, his brothers, etc.
You are joking.
And so all of this has, basically. His story, and and then now it comes into all our families thereafter, and then the family trees behind here.
That is powerful.
And so the we is my aunt, who is a renowned statistician and somebody who studies a lot. Where did our Estonian population come from? But within it, where did our family come from? And then part of it is also my relatives in US, because they have their side of the story to tell. And actually amongst them, there is my great-grand aunt's son's daughter, who is actually my great aunt's son's daughter, who is an author herself, and who is actually she teaches authors how to write and so on. So it's and then my cousins and everybody basically came together. These are all the various people who've contributed to this book to become what it is, and yeah. So there is every family who their pictures, their stories. Where are they now?
That is incredible. Let me tell you, that is incredible. So that's something that you pass on as a family.
But you see, it's only valid to the point when it was written. And then history happens thereafter again.
Yes, so that's what I mean. It needs to keep.
Yes, it needs to continue, but yes. So it was published, basically every family has a copy, and the Estonian National Archives have a copy.
Okay, let me geek you out a bit just because you've brought that up.
Yes.
I do something called CTA posterity.
Yeah.
The way you're talking, I sit down with the patriarch of the family, and then now I don't sit down with them together. I sit down with them individually, because individually their lives go different ways.
Right.
And then I do something very different. I do this conversation that we're having. And what I've come to understand that I am doing is something called the data dump. So the person or the father that I'm talking with, the 70-year-old, 80-year-old, is data dumping. In the essence of it, he's providing that knowledge that you've talked about.
Yeah.
But we also do something very, very intentional in this. For 2 hours of the filming, and this is why I know you'll appreciate this, we film it in 360. 360 meaning in virtual reality. Now, we are aware that the technology is not there right now. But because we filmed it in 360, and because he's done a data dump, and because of where AI is coming, his great-grandchild is going to be able to put on a VR headset. And because we've gotten the nuances, the ounces, his blinking, his intonation and everything, he's going to be able to say, hi, Granddad, tell me who you are. And now they will start having a conversation. But with the raw, because the AI is going to take the information from the raw data dump.
Right.
You get what I mean?
I do, and that is so powerful.
It is. It means generations are going to be able to sit down and hear the purity. Not everybody may be a reader, but the essence of what has happened there is a data dump. And now you're able to take that and live your
And then with AI, you're able to pick up the metadata and be able to then link those stories between the hundreds of families that you speak with.
I'm not even going there. But say that.
And so basically, because you see, what you're creating is one of the biggest ways in which colonization killed Kenyan culture, Kenyan history, Kenyan story.
Wow.
And what is not found in the National Archives is what you're creating. And so the only probably add on to that would be to, create the metadata in order to interlink the stories and make that available for Kenya as a whole, because it is Kenya's history. It's not only the history of that family.
And here's the beauty of one of the reasons why I went to Estonia. To understand how do the people who are telling this story completely own the API, the IP, the intellectual property of this.
Yes.
However, still do this thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
Because data is very powerful, and this is very sacred. If you notice, I don't even put these conversations out to the public. In fact, the data is all owned by them. I tell them, you don't understand what I've done for you, so first and foremost, back this up on the cloud as much as here's a hard drive. You're going to understand in a couple of years the importance of what I've just done. So because you don't right now, here is it in the way that you like it, because I also can't chop it up in the essence. But what you are talking about is now for the greater good. I love what you're saying, because that's what I do with this. So now somebody is able to watch all the different CTAs and do a thread and understand how does music in Kenya, what was music in Kenya like in 1990 in terms of, in 2001 for women. Because I've interviewed various women, the data is there and you're able to take. And universities in America and abroad are actually taking CTAs and doing thesis based on them. But what you've talked about, Kadri, okay, and this is the kind of conversations that we're leading up to. This is just a tease.
And see, the reason I say this is because, so while there is some aspects of those stories that you're collecting, they might be very personal. They might be things that, these individuals or their families might consider, this
Sacred.
is sacred.
Yes.
We don't want to put it out there. However, there are aspects of it which are absolutely essential for the formation of the psyche, the mentality, the who Kenya is that you have. And so in Estonia we have the Museum of Literature that has been collecting stories like what you've done now for hundreds of years. And so we have what you have from the year 2025, 2024. We have that from the year 1901. We have that from, basically, we can go back and hear those stories of how the mothers used to tell some proverbs, in the 17th century, because it is there, it's captured, and it can be relayed back to.
Kadri, this is a rabbit hole we can enter, but I just want to say one more. I had a conversation with somebody who is doing this, but not from a video format, from just writing a book. And they're having conversations with people in the airlift. So we talk in Finland, we heard about the Finland airlift and the impact that had, negative and positive. But there was an airlift, and the airlift led to, for example, Barack Obama. Barack Obama is a product of the Kenya airlift, but there's very many different other people, including the tomboyers. And imagine that airlift and the history that it has and the impact that it has on who we are today. So if these stories, again, you're right, are not individually isolated and not interlinked to get what it is that you're saying, and then to impact a generation for the future.
Yeah.
Okay. You then go to... So these conversations lead somewhere, but it's important for you then to understand the history. This is her data down for the history. You then go to Helsinki, Finland. 1990?
1990.
1 year before the big day.
Yep.
Okay, what's it like when you go there? Because it's already the first time you visited. Every time you go there, that element of exposure does something to you. And this time it's done something where it's even changed your course of learning. Now you're in social
psychology. Yes. And so one of the things that also happened slightly earlier with the starting of the breakup of Soviet Union was the start of people having the right to be Christian.
Wow.
Because during Soviet Union, being Christian was banned.
Whoa.